Good evening, everyone. Tonight, another family is grieving the death of yet another unarmed black man. George Floyd, 46-year-old black man, was killed by a white police officer, all captured on video. As we all know, riots have been ongoing since then, but this issue and the ones before it does one thing, and that it sheds a light on a nation more divided than ever. Black protesters are called thugs, animals, and that same rhetoric stems from the highest office of the land. Just a few weeks ago, a group of heavily armed white men walked to the Michigan State Capitol to protest. They were not peaceful. They were screaming. But what sets them apart from us is that they had guns. The president referred to them as very fine people who were just angry. And we've seen that pattern before. You know, MLK had a dream. We all have a dream. We dream of a world where we can run while black, where we can sleep while black, we can own a home while black. And I'll even go back to MLK to say, you know, he mentioned a riot is a language of the unheard. As long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Tonight, I want to invite our viewers to join me in taking a moment of silence for George Floyd. All right, welcome to DroppedMic, everybody. Once again, this is your host, Ted Wigis. And as you guys already know, for those of you guys who've been tuning in I'm never alone whenever I come here to present a topic to you guys. And tonight, again, it's no different. I'm once again joined by a group of professionals, young adults, with some very strong opinions, like I always say. And we're really thankful for them volunteering their time to be with us tonight. I'll let them introduce themselves. tell us where they're from, what they do, and they can share with us whatever they want to share. So let's get to it, guys. I'll start with you, Juliet.
Hi, everyone. My name is Juliet Nelson. I am a business professional during the day, entrepreneur during the night. I founded Junuri, as well as I co-founded Wazin, which I own, along with my business partner. I also am an educator, and I am the author of Sharing My Lens, The College Experience, which I published last year, and that speaks about some of the gems that I wish I had going into college. I am also a choir director on the side. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I am originally from New York, and I currently reside in the DMV. So happy to be with everybody.
Thank you, Juliet. Next, I'll go to you, Ivans.
From Florida. I actually work as a product manager for Microsoft, but would come with a computer engineering background. I would say in my spare time, I just like to do everything, a little bit of everything, photography, from traveling. I also am working on a side project called Life Engineering, where we're looking to increase the representation of Black and minorities in the STEM field. So check out and be on the lookout for that. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all this evening.
All right, thank you, Ivans. And I'll go to you, Erica.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Laguerre. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm a social worker, and I'm really excited to be on this panel tonight.
Thank you very much. And next, I think we have Saint.
Hi, everyone. My name is Saint Phanesia Baptiste. I am a CPA. I'm a working accountant. I'm with Ernst & Young. And just for the sake of the conversation, I'm not sure if some of you guys may be going to college. So I attended Florida State University with both my undergrads and my master's in accounting. And I also have a nonprofit that I run on the side called Walk My Shoes, and we work with high school students. And that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much. Dooney, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dooney Pierre. I live in New York, in the Long Island area to be specific. I'm a social worker in the greater New York City area. I work particularly in education advocacy, helping families getting access to social justice in regards to their education, and really supporting students, especially minority students, as they navigate the 0 through 12, grade 12 field. Yeah, so that's me.
All right. Thank you very much, Dooney. And last but not least, I believe I have Brittany.
Hey guys, my name is Brittany J. I live outside of Boston, and I'm a creative marketing professional. I do all things around personal development, giving young adults the spaces and tools needed to thrive. And I have a workbook that I'm working on called Finding Happy that will come out soon. And yeah, excited to be here.
All right. Thank you very much, guys. This is an amazing panel, ladies and gentlemen, like you've heard. And I don't think I've mentioned it, but tonight's topic, so I guess if we're trying to formulate a question, I guess I can say, should you follow your parents? I mean, not necessarily should you follow your parents. Should you listen to your parents when it comes to following your dreams as a child, right? So we'll jump right in. So the first question I have, I'll start with you, Juliet, and then we'll just go down the line. I would like for all of you guys to weigh in on this one. So do you think it's justified that if my parents paid for my education, they can tell me what career path or major I should study in college?
I don't think it hurts to suggest it. There are parents, they want the best for us. However, I don't necessarily think it's a matter of telling, but dictating. I don't think they should dictate. I do believe that there are different layers to this. a child should be able to pursue what dreams they have. But once again, there are different layers. You have a lot of parents, myself being Haitian American, you know, in Haitian culture, West Indian culture, African culture, if you're not an engineer, a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, most likely you're not doing something that's going to guarantee you financial stability or growth in your job or in your career. But that's honestly maybe what our parents have been exposed to. And they probably have not been exposed to this world of, you know, if you chose to be a musician, you can actually be successful, even if you went to school for music, if you went to school for business, or if you went to school, even in trade school as a carpenter, as, you know, an electrician, you can still be successful. They may not have been exposed to that as also bringing financial or job stability. I think the next layer is that, yes, sometimes we don't follow what our parents ask us to do, not necessarily because we really know, but it's because we just know that maybe being a doctor is not for us. We have no place in a court. We know we have no place in a hospital. But the challenge with that as well is growing up, you know, children in schools, oftentimes they're not taught to understand their purpose. They're always engaged in, you know, being attached to a certain title, right? When you're a kid, they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? They don't ask you what you want to do. If you ask me what I want to be, I can tell you I want to be an astronaut. I can tell you I want to be a nurse, a doctor, a teacher. But if you ask me what I want to do and I tell you I want to help people live healthy lives, I can do that as a dietitian. I can do that as a fitness instructor. I can do it as a doctor, but I can do it in other ways. So I think there are different levels. You know, some kids honestly do need their parents' guidance. I don't think parents should necessarily dictate. But then again, there's sometimes just a lack of awareness as to what the options are out there, how to properly navigate your college experience as well, to ensure that, you know, when you do pursue your dreams and you're actually pursuing your purpose, you are attaining some level of self-fulfillment in the end. So that's my take on it.
Okay. Anyone else want to jump in?
I want to jump in. Okay.
No, go ahead, Love. Go ahead.
This is Jenny. I kind of agree with what Juliet said, but I think as a parent, your job is to mold your child and to get them ready for the real world, right? So as they're leaving your house when they turn 18, going to college or going into whatever post-secondary life looks like for them, I think as a parent, you're supposed to acknowledge that you've done what you could at molding them for the last 18 years, right? You should have an understanding of your child that they will take and leave some of the guidances that you've set for them. I'm not saying that I don't believe that parents should give their children framework for what they see their strengths as, but I'm saying that parents shouldn't be able to dictate a child's future, because at the end of the day, that parent is not going to live that life for that person. And sometimes our parents don't have the same language as us as what is available out there, especially coming from a Caribbean background. I'm Haitian American. Not that my parents did this, but I've definitely seen in our community that parents say, like Juliet said, doctor, engineer, lawyer, nurse. Those are the 4 careers that you have. Those are the 4 options that you have. But it's because they don't know that you can be a nutritionist. You can be a astrophysicist. You can be a molecular scientist. Like those words don't necessarily exist in their vocabulary. And so as a child, maybe guiding your parents and letting them understand, here are my strengths, here are my desires, here are my likes, but also as a parent, understanding that your child's desires and wants may be very different to the ones that you have and your expectations for your child.
Okay.
I definitely wanted to kind of speak on the fact that I think, Ted, you mentioned that if the parent pays for the education, should they be able to decide what they're going to do? I think a couple things kind of preface that. If your parents have money to be able to pay for your education, I mean, my parents didn't really have that And so they're coming from a place of like, okay, I really want to bank, and I want my child to do the best that they can, and I know these paths are going to set them up for success. But oftentimes, when your parent got a little bit of cash flow, then that comes with like they probably was putting you in training, like since like you were young, they were encouraging you to do certain things. So no, oftentimes you do kind of fit into that mode of like, okay, like, yeah, my thoughts are aligned with my parents' thoughts. But at the end of the day, just because they pay for it doesn't mean like they're entitled to dictate what you're going to do. You know, it's like if you're out on a date and you pay for someone's dinner, that doesn't entitle them to be yours. You get what I'm saying? It's out of the kindness of their heart. It's for love that they would pay, or I'll pay for your education. But at the end of the day, your purpose is your own. You're going to dictate what you choose to do with your life.
Okay, that's a very good point. So now here's a question I have for some of you guys that haven't spoken yet. So some parents have a genuine fear, you know, that their child may go through what they went through, you know, all the sufferings they went through, you know, especially for us immigrants, right? Our parents came here first. Some of them, they had to work long hours, 2-3 jobs just to provide for us, right? So they carefully select a few career paths, like you guys have mentioned, you know, nursing, engineering, and things of that nature. Do you guys think that this is justified? So I'll go to you, Erica, and then we'll go with Saint and Brittany.
Sorry, can you ask that again?
Some parents, they choose a career path for you because they don't want you to go through what they went through, right? They genuinely have that fear that you may suffer if you just, you know, let's say, for example, you want to go study art or history. You know, to them, they feel like it's a waste of time or waste of money. So do you think that's justified, their fear?
I mean, I think their fear it's valid, and it's important to validate that fear. But I also think it's very important to have an open line of communication. And when you have that communication and that dialogue with your parents, and you bring them into your sense of passion and you guide them through that and you introduce them to your passion, they also get a better understanding of your world and what you're passionate about. And I think that will help them provide a better understanding. You can also, I mean, we think about art and history, and some people think that artists are poor or they may not make a good living, but that's not honestly necessarily true. So I think it's also providing that information about what their lifestyle or their future could look like in that field as well.
Okay. So what do you have to say about that, Saint?
I think, so the question ultimately is it valid? So I'm not a parent yet, but I'm a very concerned young older sister. So I kind of take the parent role, and a lot of the questions you're asking, I'm on the parent side. I think when you watch the child develop, you kind of have witnessed their interest and their commitment to that interest, right? So if a child tells me, oh, I want to go and like do social sciences, and these fields, not many people thrive in it, and that's the truth. And therefore, I need to see your commitment and your passion towards this, that for me to be comfortable, that you won't be one of the people who succeed in it, especially if I'm paying for it. Or you need to work and get scholarship to pay for your own thing, because this is a hobby that you're pursuing that you're just thinking if you like, you don't know yet. So that being said, I think that fear is definitely valid, especially if I think the fear is tied to the type of child home. Is he or she the type who's committed, who's gonna go the extra mile to make this career work for them? And are they not? And I think that's where that fear becomes, it's very valid, especially, sorry, one more thing I want to add. This pandemic has made it so evident. A lot of people have been laid off, a lot of people, and it tells you it's I guess, work, me being able to work from home, and then I see some other friends who are laid off, and while people are not being able to get certain jobs, I was heavily recruited on LinkedIn, like 20 emails a day or whatever. But it tells you something. Definitely, it's valid, and I don't think we should overlook the parents' fear. This is a true thing, and not to say that the child cannot pursue something outside of STEM, but I need to see passion that backs it up, and I need to see the hard work that you're gonna back it up.
Okay, thank you very much. And what do you think about that, Brittany?
I agree with everything Saint said. I agree with everything everyone said so far. The fear is definitely valid. I would agree. At the end of the day, your parents want you to be safe. Yes, they don't want you to struggle as much as you have. But ultimately, if you're pursuing a career path that they've chosen for you, or a career path that you decided to pursue yourself, you're going to struggle regardless. And then it becomes a matter of, are you going to struggle for someone else's desires or your own? And I think it's important to also realize that there's kind of a cultural disconnect, because this idea that we can go into creative marketing like I'm in, or writing or whatever, and still succeed or indulge in those passions is like, just an American belief that you can do something you think about and still make money off of it. Our parents are not coming from that same background, that same cultural belief. That's it. That's what I got.
Very good point. But I know, so similarly to your point, I know Dooney made a point about that too. And Juliet, when you guys said that they weren't exposed to, other fields of study, because they know that coming from Haiti, certain things will set you for a better life versus other things. Whereas someone who grew up here, I can be a florist and be a millionaire, and so on.
Yeah.
So where do you guys think that this is coming from in our culture?
I think it's also within the American culture. I think what's exposed more are the bigger jobs, right? Your doctors, your lawyers, your engineers. That's what is promoted as, or even your IT professionals. Those fields are promoted as having the potential to make the most money, and also give you a higher chance of getting a job right after college, right? So I think that's the first thing. It's not just a thing in Haiti. It's also a thing in this country. I believe that when you are exposed to the right people and you're able to surround yourself in the right network properly, you want to be be in the creative field, you can be successful in that. Then you will know that if you want to do art or music, you have to, but there's also a science to that as well. I think the next disconnect where, yes, there's the parents, but children are also not being engaged appropriately, right? Not even children, students. When I went through college, I did my bachelor's in business administration and my master's in business administration. And no one came to me and said, you have to do internships. They told us, hey, we have the Career Center and that's an option, but it wasn't something I was forced to do. So when I got out of college, I was in this big world where I could do an analysis, I can do brand, I can do finance, I do so many different things, but I didn't necessarily settle on a niche, and that caused challenges for me. So what happens is, as students go through their college experience, they don't understand the value of networking, they don't understand the value of internships, they don't understand the value of participating in that professor's research project when they ask for volunteers. They don't understand that value, and when you don't understand that value, you even really go to your parents and say, hey, mom, dad, I'm better in this field, and this is really my dream, and this is really what I want to do. And so that can also cause that fear with the parents, where they're like, hey, my kid doesn't even know what they're doing. And so they might say, okay, nursing school is better. But the next problem is if the kid doesn't know what they're doing in something that they say they're passionate about, what makes you think that they know what they're doing going through nursing school or, law school or something like that? So, I mean, the cultural thing, I don't think it's necessarily only, Haitian culture or West Indian culture. It's also American culture as to what's on the forefront versus the other career paths that are more, you might have to figure them out yourself. But honestly, yes, if you're surrounded by the right people, you will be put on the right path.
Okay, very good point. I know someone wanted to add something else.
Yeah.
I agree with Juliet, and I also, in some ways, agree with Saint as well. Like the fear is valid, but as Juliet mentioned, like it's in this generation with technology, as we're growing with technology, a whole bunch of new ideas and new opportunities are being brought to the forefront, right? Like, what was a social media manager like 2 years ago? No one was really talking about that, and now every brand needs a social media manager. Everyone's looking to up their brand, make sure that they're looking right on social media because they know that's how people are connecting. They know how this is how Gen Z is connecting to the world, right? And for a lot of our parents, for a lot of older people, they don't see that. They don't see the benefits in that. So when you say, oh yeah, I'm really great at social media. Oh, I'm really great at editing this, and I understand all of these softwares, or oh, I'm able to do this and this. They don't see the need for that. They don't necessarily see the need for that yet, right? Because it's a foreign language to them. And so while the fear is valid, sometimes it takes us as children or like the student to let their family know, like, hey, look at this research that I've done, or like, look at these things that I'm able to show you. So that this is a thing. This is the next wave. And it might not be a doctor, I might not be a nurse, but I can still find jobs within this field. And like something that I always heard growing up from like people in church, there was always, everybody's gonna always need a doctor. People will always get sick. You'll always find a job as a nurse. If you go to the hospital, there's always somebody there, right? But like social media is the new thing. Like everybody's on their phone 24/7. Like your phone is glued to you. So if that is your passion, if that is what you're good at, get better at it as a young person. Start working on it. Like because these things didn't exist and these apps didn't exist that long ago. So getting to know, getting to understanding the back end of it, all of that is to your benefit.
Leave it to the president, we probably wouldn't have social media.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Right?
Go ahead, Ivan. I know you wanted to make a point.
Yeah, I was just going to talk about like a couple key points. And you already like sound like you're going to be a great mother. Because one of the key things that like as a parent, you have to make sure you're looking for your kid's best judgment, to make sure you're in the best path for them to succeed. And you could only speak based on your previous experience. I know from a Haitian household, we value Haitian. That's probably like one of the pillars. And most of the individuals who are most educated actually were doctors, actually were engineers, actually were lawyers. They made the money. They had the opportunities. So when the Haitian family members, and we are all like, if you're kind of living in this time frame, you are first generation like Haitian. If you had the privilege to have parents who are coming straight out of Haiti, they came to America to basically seek for a better life. So their thought process is, well, I didn't have these opportunities before, so I'm going to make sure that my kid has it. So it's very valid. I do defer a little bit, like in the American household. I think those who were born in America, they stem from different generations of more, I guess, more distinction, more so in terms of like the communities that they're in, and the interactions that they have. To explain it a little bit more, I feel like Haitians, we're very tight knit in our community. Even just look at this platform, we just naturally come forth. But one of the, sometimes in the American household, it could be a little bit difficult because it just depends on which community that you're brought in, and some the parent has to fight a different battle with their kids. They have to fight the battle of like, okay, making sure that they don't end up like their past children or their uncles or their cousins, you know, who may have been affiliated in some respects to something else that they don't want to do. Sometimes a parent that's like probably was a former athlete or something like that, they want to pass that on to their kids. But like we said, we're a new generation, and we're kind of even creating jobs on the spot. Social media managers, like that is something that you could do now that you weren't able to do 20 years ago or 30 years ago when our parents were just like thinking about conceiving us, right? And the biggest thing that I want to just say is, though it's justified, I think for us as millennials, and then also for the Gen Zers who's coming up and are going to be in the old raggedy side like that we're in, like pushing 30, one thing I could say is be open-minded to the new opportunities, you know. The biggest criteria that I would say is passion. If the person is passionate, then they're going to go get it regardless. Like if you really say that you want to achieve what you're about to achieve, you'll make that thing happen, you know.
Okay. And I know you wanted to say something, Erica.
Can I piggyback off of that real quick? Sorry, I'm talking
Go ahead.
a lot. But like something something that like we don't Juliet mentioned this briefly, like having access to internships, having access to like opportunities to get to know what you're passionate about. I don't think that's something that like our parents knew, and I think we're doing a better job now about letting people know, like, hey, go shadow somebody. Like, if this is the field that you're thinking about, spend 10 hours in their shoes, like follow them around, understand what they're doing, so that before you go spend hundreds of $1,000s going through med school and getting into a bunch of debt and finding out 2 years later, oh, actually, I hate this. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? And being miserable in a field that you've paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to be in. So I think our generation and the upcoming generations have the power and privilege in the ability to reach out to people. We have social media. We have things like LinkedIn. We have that you don't have to necessarily know the person. You can just be like, hi, I saw that you're involved in a field in an area that I'm interested in. Can you tell me a little bit about it? Like, I think this generation is a little less fearful of cold calling people to get to know what's out there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Doni. Go ahead, Erica.
I mean, she kind of said exactly what I was going to say, so I don't want to be repetitive. But I mean, from my experience as a first generation, going to college was tough. It was hard, you know, navigating that and not having the resources, or like Juliet was saying, like having to figure out how to navigate certain environments and whatnot. And it's tough. And I think to myself a lot, now that I have this experience, I have this knowledge, what am I going to do with it, right? And I think we also need to hold ourselves accountable. We've been through this experience. We don't want other like kids that are younger than us to go through the same hardships. Like, hold ourselves accountable. Let's share this information with either the people in our church or in our community, right? And expand that information. And I also, for the young people, like, don't be afraid to reach out. If you know somebody's doing or is in a field that you're really interested in, like, reach out to them. Hey, like Dooney said, like, can I shadow you? Or what exactly do you do? Do you like your job? Like, give me more examples on that and things like that.
Okay.
I just want to jump in.
And so I have a. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I just want to jump in really quick. I think that, I know we mentioned passion. And I mentioned it before. Here's a big challenge I have. I have friends who've done it. Even some of my students, I noticed that they jump around different things that they want to do. One week they want to be a doctor. The next week they want to be a basketball player. The next week they want to be a rapper. I don't know. And it literally depends on what they saw on TV, who they bumped into, who they saw walking down the street. It changes. And honestly, that's the story of millennials. You come into college, and you started off and, maybe you didn't want to do what your parents said, right? I don't want to do nursing school. So I went in and I said, okay, I'm going to do business school. And then I get in a year in and I'm like, yeah, no, don't like this. All right, I'm going to do engineering. And I know people, I have peers who, like a semester to graduation, they threw the whole entire thing away and started from scratch, transferred to another school. Some people even graduated. I know of people who graduated with a whole entire degree, conferred, walked across the stage, and ended up volunteering in their field because they didn't want to make a paycheck from that field and wanted to go back to school to study something completely different. And that's why I emphasize the importance of understanding your that's associated with a behavioral outcome, a performance outcome, not a title. When you're too focused on the exact title and not what you're meant to do, meaning the purpose, you will be completely lost. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a teacher just like my dad. And my dad always said, oh, you're going to be a teacher. You're going to grow up to be a teacher. You're going to grow up to be a teacher. And it's a very immature reason. Y'all can judge me. It's okay. I'll judge myself. In the 6th grade, they had Superintendent's Day where all the kids get off from school. And I came back to school the next day and all the kids are like, okay, this is so-and-so. What did you do yesterday on your day off? She goes, the day off is not for me. It's for y'all. And I can't make this up. I was like, I'm not about to be a teacher. And these kids get a day off. And I got to come to work. I threw it away. I said, I'm not doing it. And literally, I said, I'm going to be a teacher. And that changed into something else. And what I didn't realize is that my purpose was not to have the title of classroom teacher. My purpose was to educate. My purpose was to empower. By being a children's choir director, I've taught choirs of 100 kids to sing in 3-part harmony perfectly. As a program manager for training, I've been able to help people to pick up the intellectual capital, the skills, and the motivation to be able to perform in the workplace. With students, I've been able to help them develop their strengths, understand their learning styles, and so on and so forth. And with that, now being in a PhD program where I'm studying industrial and organizational psychology, I'm understanding that in learning everything that I'm learning, it's more about helping people find their purpose, find their passion, and helping empower them so they can stand on their own. Because when you're always tied to a title, that's how you fall. That's how you say, I don't want this anymore. That's how you say it's hard. But when you are tied to a passion, right? And if you're an entrepreneur, you understand it. When you know this is something you are passionate about, when you know this is your purpose, no matter how hard it is, you're sleeping at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, working, and it feels lonely at the top, you still gonna do it because that's your purpose, and that's what you're meant to be on this earth to do. And that's all I have to say with this.
So, I have a question for you, Brittany.
Yes.
So, someone in the comments on Facebook, Kesu, that's my friend. She said about 70% of Haitian parents are entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
And she said if they let you accomplish whatever you want, wait, is that what she says? Yes, she said basically parents should allow children to develop their passion, right? So I want you to walk us through, when did you realize that creative marketing is what you wanted to do? And how did you approach your parents, or how did that process go for you? And was it easy, and how did they receive it?
Okay. 70% of Haitians are entrepreneurs. Haitian parents are entrepreneurs. I did not know that fact. That's a cool fact. So I'll say through college was hard. I started off with sociology as my major, my declared major. First, let me say, I went to college because of my mom. My mom wanted me to go to college. That's one. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to sociology because I knew I was interested in people and the way we thought about things, the way our behaviors were influenced by the way we think, the way we thought, and stuff like that. That I ended up dropping that. And then my mother was really on me about, you need to be a nurse or a doctor. So I decided to take radiology. I was on a scholarship. I failed my radiology type classes and lost my scholarship. And from there, I really had to just ask myself, what is it that I wanted? Why was I doing this? What would help me get through college faster? What would help me get through it successfully? And from there, I picked up communications because that was a broad subject. Also dealt with people. And from there, you know, you just start asking yourself the hard questions. What is it that you want? What is it that you like to do? What brings you joy? And I started taking up different jobs. They were all over the place, but eventually I found that they all had this same element where it involved people, connecting resources, and learning new things. So as I networked more, as I picked up more jobs, as I found the connections between all of the experience that I had, I was able to pinpoint this specific field, which is creative and marketing. And even now, I'm learning that your passion is not, as Juliet has said, is not tied to your title. Your passion can be expressed through so many different types of platforms. And I think being in America, that's a privilege that we have to be able to use all these different platforms to express ourselves however it most connects to us. So yes, creative marketing is not actually a field that is known so well. It's kind of new and kind of coined it. I'm just going to say, kind of coined the phrase. Yeah, so...
But
you know, you just put everything. You kind of just put everything together.
Okay, thank you, though. Thank you. And Saint, I have a question for you. So, since you said that you have a younger sibling, your sister, and you kind of like act as the parent, right, to her. So, there was a study by the Atlanta Black Star, and they said that so in a black household, the bullying, I guess the parental bullying is more present. I guess, what other word could I use? It's more often seen in a black household versus the white community. Do you think that you see some of that in you as far as, because I know you said you want your sister to tell you, you want to see that passion and you want to see the work being put into that passion, right? So do you think that, or I guess, should I say, do you agree with that idea?
So basically, the idea we're discussing is whether parental bullying is more present in black households.
As far as, you know, if your child comes home with a degree that's not to your liking, you minimize it or you undermine it because that's not what you wanted them to do, or you feel like it's not going to take them anywhere.
I don't know. I can't speak for where that statistic comes from. I don't necessarily agree. Just to be clear, I'm an only girl, so I have all brothers. So I have 2 younger brothers.
Oh, your brother.
And so
okay, sorry.
No, you're fine. And I don't think I agree with this statistic, but or I don't know, from the black families I know, right? But I can see how this is a thing, but not that way, right? So one of the things, I don't know if you guys watch Guy May from Haiti. She talks a lot about Haitian parents sometimes thinking their kids are their personal deeds or something, right? Like, you know, they think I'm sacrificing for you, so you can come take care of me now, right? And I'm learning now that this happens even outside of the Haitian household. It happens in a lot of black households, period, where parents feel like you're an investment. So after a certain age, I need to see my return on investment on you, right? And that I can see where even I felt that burden, where sometimes you feel like, man, I wish I had the privilege to go to school, come back, and just do something because I liked it, take a gap year, or, you know, not worry about the people who kind of lean on you, right? And I can see where that becomes bullying, where it's like, so that and then this is this, you just graduated and they have all these expectations from you, and I've seen bullying in that aspect where the parent expects you not to do it just so you can be fine, but they want you to pursue a certain thing so you can do what they want you to do, so you can build their homes for them in Haiti, so you can give back to the household, take care of other things. That I can see where the bullying comes in. But as far as like my immediate take on that pressure with my younger brothers, for example, it's more honestly, I think if they go and get a degree, that shows me they were committed enough to the thing to get the degree in it. So there's no complaints. In most Asian households, if you actually graduate in that thing, they're happy you graduated, because that was the whole concern to begin with. You're gonna go somewhere and then come back without a degree, or you come back and you can't take care of yourself. But if you're passionate enough, you graduate in it, and you're making, because the whole point is to prove them that, you prove to, I guess in my household, prove to us that you will take care of yourself. I don't need you to come back to take care of me. I just don't need you calling me all the time.
I think, Ted, based off of the comment or the study that you were talking about, I think you can't have a discussion about that without looking at the history of racial injustice, specifically in America. When you think about how just, African Americans or Blacks you look at education, for example, and in urban communities or communities of color, where there's already a setback in regards to academic performance, right? So we're already at a disadvantage, while white people, they have the resources, there's the tax base, whatever it may be, there's flowing into their community where they can provide the resources, the technology, the books, right, for their kids to learn at an advantage, right? So we already see that there's this disadvantage, and I think it sometimes pushes people of color to work harder. Oh, you have to work harder because you're Black or you're a person of color, because you have to achieve, because people already assume that you're not going to do well, or you're not going to achieve this, or you're not smart. So I think that's why there might be a push from parents sometimes in communities of color, trying to push their kids to do better or to work harder to achieve something that maybe they couldn't achieve, or because of how the media portrays us.
I just want to add to that. Go ahead, Ivan.
Go ahead, Julie. I mean, I was just gonna add, like, take a little punch. I would just say, I don't think the pressure comes from the parents in terms of like how they'll be a little bit more. They'll roast. It's like, for layman, lack of like better terminology. Those comes from like their peer groups, like from other like family members, cousins, and stuff like that. It does kind of create like a crabs in a bucket type of mentality sometimes, where, even growing up, one key difference I want to say between here and Haiti is, like, if you're smart in Haiti, they teach like that. That's a form of popularity. You'll be popular for your intelligence. But here in America, your intelligence is something that gets attacked. And I think that is a learned behavior, not just a natural behavior. But we could like on that at a different time. But I do think those attacks do come from everyone else, not like your mother. Your mother will has to love you. Like, your parents have to love you. Maybe probably your father, but I think that mainly comes from me.
I just wanted to add, our culture, among others, they are honorific cultures, right? As a young person, you owe respect, you owe consideration to those in authority, to those who are older. And so your parents, I think my grandmother gave me this quote, even though old people, memsi wush gamun santi, but it's gold, something like that. What comes out of their mouth is gold. So basically saying, like, you mad at me because his face is sagging, but what I'm telling you is wisdom. And so even, I've lived in South Korea for a year, and it's the same thing. And I actually conducted studies where a lot of these kids, they're not in school, even because they want to be in school. They're not doing a trade that they wanted to do. It's because the culture says that they have to follow what their parents said. So coming from this honorific culture where we must be obedient to our parents and their will and their desires, and even our communities, because we come from a collective culture where our focus is more on how can we give back to the community, right? In our culture as Black, African American, West Indian, you go to school, what do they expect you to do? Come and give to your community, right? Versus American, and when I say American, I'm talking European influenced culture, which is more individualistic. You worry about yourself, you do what you happy, you do what is going to benefit you and your future, and you can be assured that everybody else is good. So with that being said, when you challenge that, right, when you say, no, I don't want to do what you told me to do, I think that also can bring pushback, not only from the parents, not only from immediate family, but also the community. That's where the belittling comes, because you decided to pursue a dream that did not fall within the bounds of what they felt was good for you. And you also challenged their authority as being older and also knowing better, which is also a cultural, it's part of our culture. Now, it's not a way to bash our culture, but it is, it is telling about the behaviors that come out of it. I studied international, that was my concentration. And I always told people, I want to travel the world. I want to, travel to different places. And every single time, my ability to get married and have children and raise a family and be in a relationship was always challenged. That was always the first thing. I've had, church members, moving out to the DMV, packing up my bags to pursue a job that I really wanted to work in, them literally cutting all contact off with me, because they pled and they said, you're your mother and your father's only child, their only daughter. Why would you do that? Why would you hurt them? Don't leave. Listen to your parents. My parents who never told me to necessarily leave, but because they're in the community and they're older, they feel that I also have to honor their wishes. And because I'm not honoring their wishes, shoot, I'll you're X'd out. Of course, when you become successful, you become part of the community again. They sing your praises, different story, different day. However, it still goes back to the honorific culture, right? We're supposed to do what our parents wanted us to do, what the, our adopted parents or those who, are parents by association, pagen, nenen, tonton, magen, everybody, we're supposed to honor what they feel we should do, even if it's unsolicited. And when we don't, that's where some of the pushback comes in. So.
I have a question for Brittany and Dooney. So some parents, right, they say that, so my child is an introvert. I know that they cannot work in an environment where they have to interact with a lot of people because they get physically tired, right? So their recommendation is that that child gets a corporate job and works in a cubicle for 8 hours a day because they think that they'll be perfect at it, So do you guys think that this type of thinking is justified? I'll go with you, Brittany, and then
No. Okay.
No, it's not. A cubicle is trash. It's the worst thing ever. I don't, no.
You're right. I recommend.
Yeah, I don't recommend that. And also, introverted people can become extroverts. And even if that's not the case, we're in a time now where networking is vital. So even if they were to take a corporate job and be in a cubicle, they would have to interact with others regardless to be successful. And like as much as you can recommend or enforce things for your child, people grow, people change, people become influenced, and you just can't choose a path for somebody. You just can't. If they think they're introverts now, but they can be exposed to something in a year or two from now, and they become a completely different person. Why are they going to be different people for? Why? And for what? For the same type of money that they can make doing some other job that they actually enjoy, that they learn, that they grow in, develop. No.
Yeah, I agree. No. Additionally, because we sometimes in our community we learn some terms and we're like, okay, so now I understand this level of the term, forgetting that there's like 1,000,001 other layers of the term. So like, yes, introverts get drained from interactions with people or being around people, but that doesn't mean they can't be around people, right? So I am very much introvert, but I love people. Like I love like being around people, but I have my cutoff time.
Yeah.
I get to a point where it's like, all right, I've been around enough people for today, so I'll see y'all tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that I can't interact with people in the office. That doesn't mean that I can't have conversations, maintain relationships, and do all of those things. And sometimes I think we forget once we learn this language that like there are layers to it, and it's like, okay, you're an introvert, but how do you gain energy outside of stepping away from people? Is it that you can gain energy just by being silent and still having people around? Is it that you can just go for a quick walk and like get your juices back up? And so it's like there are definitely layers to this, and I often think that people don't fully understand the terminology before like really diving into it.
All right. Thank you, Dooney. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add before we go and take our break.
Can I say something to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to make it clear, corporate America does not mean cubicles. People like legit, I tell them what I do, they're like, oh, you must be crunching numbers all day in the cubicle. So sad. And it's not necessarily. And there are kids literally running away from certain positions because they think they're going to be stuck in a cubicle. And that's not necessarily always true. And the other thing, in corporate America, there is room for all these other professions to exist. There is room for the marketing, the creatives, and it's all part of that. So for anyone watching, I don't want you to limit yourself to think like this, like corporate America, cubicle. Like there's so much, and there's room for so much more. So just don't limit it just to I'm not in a cubicle at all. We're all about big spaces. And I sometimes wish I was in a cubicle. People, they have too much access. But just letting you know.
Can I add off of that?
And regardless of the job that you're going to do, there's going to be some level of action. Like even people who are working from home, they're still interacting with people, whether it's via email, via like teleconference, via video conference. There's always some sort of interaction. Even if you're an entrepreneur, how are you going to get your goods out if you're not interacting with people? So like, regardless of what you do, there needs to be some level of interaction.
Yeah.
All right.
I do want to say that there are some people who can interact online, but when you actually get them in front of a crowd, they are super nervous. But I mean, the point that I wanted to make was just like, word to the Caribbean families and the Haitian families: stop sheltering your kids. Give them the freedom to make mistakes. Allow them to be able to be nervous, get out their comfort zone, because if you keep sheltering them, they're never going to grow. You have someone who's like introverted, okay, like they're going to stay introverted. They're not going to mount to their full potential if you can allow them to just continue fall into their bubbles. You know, when I was younger, I had a very terrible speaking problem where I stutter all the time. And I would just hate being around crowds, and I just lack of confidence. It was just always there, but I kept forcing myself to be there, being in front of people. And now it's like I come back home, it's like my dad is like, "Oh, you're the leader. You need to speak to the generation." But back then, it was just more so I just fall back you know, but you have to be open to letting your kids not be sheltered. That's my biggest take. And social media interactions, listen, you'll be able to tell the real from the fake as soon as the walls like come down and you're in front of a crowd and you actually see someone's emotions. Then you'll be able to see like, okay, are you actually have a social disorder or not? Because Summer Walker, like, she has a crazy social anxiety, but to be on Twitter popping though, like, you know, so.
And even if you never get to that space where you can speak in public or be able to interact with large crowds, it's okay. There is a space for you where you don't have to interact with large crowds, but there is some level of interaction that's necessary and needed. I forgot I had another point, but I forgot.
I think it's
no,
good, though, I will say, I think it is good that a parent is finding that their child is introverted. I think the next step would be helping that child to manage and navigate, right? Because introversion is how you deal with yourself and how you deal with the environment outside, right? Put myself out there. I don't necessarily like people like that. Meaning, like, if I have to choose between going to happy hour or going home, I am going home. And my coworkers, sometimes they're like, why don't you ever come to happy hour? And I'm like, listen, I work with y'all, okay? And that's about the extent of this relationship, okay? I make this paycheck, I go home, and I need my time to recharge. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think there was a point when it was almost like a bad thing to find, you know, and I don't know if anybody's taken like a personality assessment during an interview, but some jobs do it. I know in corporate, it was almost a bad thing when you're introverted. And introverted can also work on projects independently, right? Versus an extrovert who might do better in a team environment. And both of those skills are needed. When you know your child is introverted versus extroverted, okay, if they want to go into the healthcare field, they can do that. Maybe they might feel more comfortable working one-on-one with someone, right? Maybe as a nutritionist or like a fitness instructor, where they can work one-on-one, help them manage a diet or something like that. Versus someone else who might be introverted and they would rather literally just stay in their cubicle, like myself. You know, so it's very different, but in every field, there are opportunities to manage how you do that. As an introverted person, my manager knows there's a limit as to how many new people you're going to introduce to me in a day. And if you are, I need to emotionally prepare myself, literally, to meet this person. Because I can be, you know, in my head, I could have programmed my brain to say, I am going to get work done and work independently. And all of a sudden, we got to have a group call, and you scheduled it for 30 minutes, and you put me on a group of a call with a bunch of extroverted people who want to talk for an extra hour and a half. And I'm that person when the 30 minutes is up, I get off, and then you're mad at me because I needed my specific time. So just to say, when you know your child is introverted or extroverted, work with them to see how they process that environment around them, and work with them to see how they can communicate their needs. As an extroverted person, if I have a bad day, maybe I just need to spend time with coworkers, right? Everybody has love languages. Everybody has words of appreciation in the workplace. So an introverted person might just need to have meetings face to face with their manager. They might be the person on the Zoom meeting who wants to show their face on camera. If you have an introverted kid, maybe they don't want to show their face on camera. If they're Black like me with natural hair, they don't want to take out their twist out, right? They don't want to do a whole entire twist out for other people. They just don't want to do it. They like their space. They don't like to feel like it's being invaded. But once again, once they have those skills and understand how to communicate what they need, based on that, saying, listen, I need 5 minutes to myself. Or I do want to, you know, I would rather work on this with the team, teaching them how to navigate that. I think that would also be beneficial to them.
Good point.
Okay. You wanted to add something, Brittany?
No, everyone covered it for me. Yep. I want to say that there's a spectrum for introverts and extroverts. No one's directly just one or the other. There's a spectrum. You can fall in between, fall a little more towards introvert, more towards extrovert. So that's where you come into identifying where you thrive best.
Okay. So I'll take you, Saint, and then we'll take our break.
Yeah, make sure that it's a proper diagnosis also. Sometimes the child acts completely different with you than they are. You might think they're introverts because they never talk to you, but they're actually like the leader with their group of friends. And then you out here looking for career paths for them. That's for introverts when that doesn't even align with the kid that you have. So make sure, like if you're a parent, observe the child when they're with their friends, when you're not around. Like in a way, ask them, invite friends over. Make sure you know the friends, like so you can invite friends over so they interact when you're not part of the mix, right? Just so you can be sure, like because kids be switching up.
Twins.
No sleepovers, but no sleepovers. But if it's a Haitian parent that's telling you the child is an introvert, they know enough to know, hey, observe the child with their group of friends to make sure this is even a proper diagnosis.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you.
Want to take a break? Wait, no? Okay. No, just quickly taking backing off as well. I know we need to take our break, but like also engage with your child's school, like especially as they're in K through 12. Like their report card is not just like them getting straight A's or B's or whatever is not the full picture. Like what's going on in the classroom? Are they the one that's always talking in the classroom, or are they the one that's like never asking for help and need it? And so engage with your child's school, engage with the like all that their whole system. It's like their system is not just you. They have a whole bunch of other stuff going on besides you. All right, I'm done.
Absolutely.
All right. I want to remind our audience that we'll be taking our break. When we come back, we'll be taking questions from you guys, and then our panelists will be able to provide an element of answer. You're watching the Drop Mic. Don't go anywhere.
An army of youth from all walks of life, dedicated and devoted to making a difference in the community. We strive to be the change that we want to see, putting our God-given talents to good use while relying on Him for guidance and strength. We do not reject tradition. We simply seek improvement. By turning both strengths and flaws into assets for the Lord. We are heavily armed with mass construction weapons, those of faith, hope, love, and prayer. And we are looking to impact every single individual we encounter. We are PDF Ministry, proactive and devoted faith ministry.
In today's digital age, it's vital your business has what's called an online presence. If you don't, or what you do have isn't very good, it's going to be very difficult to grow your brand, increase profits, and be successful. And here's another problem. Creating a powerful online presence means mastering numerous types of online marketing techniques. Let's face it, you're an expert in your particular industry. But unless you have time, energy, and a lot of money to waste while you learn from your mistakes, becoming a master at creating an online presence is going to be difficult, if not impossible. And that's why you need online marketing experts like us. We have the expertise and experience you need to increase sales and profit significantly. That means having an outstanding, responsive website that's easy to navigate on all mobile devices and desktops, using feature-rich mobile apps across any platform, creating engaging marketing videos, social media marketing, and Facebook apps to interact in new, persuasive ways. We can do all of this for your business and even more, including search engine optimization, digital branding, pay-per-click marketing, web hosting, domain services, and all e-commerce related activities. Our expert team has years of experience, and our customer service is simply as good as it gets. The point being is this: when you work with us, we take care of handling all your digital marketing and do it at an affordable price. We build your online presence into something powerful that creates long-term sales and an affinity for your brand, leaving you to do what's most important: run your business and take care of your customers. If that sounds like an excellent idea, get in touch with us today.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. It is now time for you, I just froze. It is now time for you, my audience, to ask us questions. Or I guess ask our panelists some questions. So we have a question, guys, on YouTube. Someone asked the question. They said, when it comes to funding a child's education, is it a parent's duty or is it a gift? I'll start with you, Erica, and then we'll go down the line.
I think it's both. I think it's both a duty and a gift for the parent to, if they're able to, first off, to pay for their child's education. But I think there is, if the child is not willing to do, so to say, go into the field that their parent wants them to go into, then they're going to have to find a way to fund that themselves.
Okay. Ivans, what do you think?
I think if you bring a child into this world, it is your to kind of make sure that they have the best opportunity to succeed. That's just point blank period. It's your child. But I do think as a child, you should take some responsibility for securing funding for your own education. Because if you're trying to say, this is your life, this is what I want to do, then it is your personal. You want to be big and bad, go ahead. Like, be big and bad and go ahead and make that fun. You know, but like it's a shared experience. You know, I just don't want to take that responsibility from no one's hand, because at the end of the day, like the more hands that's in the pot, the better it can be. Very I consider it a privilege, even though I had to work for it, that I was able to graduate college. But it's not something that's normal for everyone, because my parents don't have the funds. I had to figure it out. Pick up a job, scholarships, stay up late. Like you have to figure it out. Like, it happen. It's your life, your destiny.
Okay. What about you, Juliet?
Yeah, I mean, if you brought a child into this world, you make your bed, you sleep in it. You pay for them to get through school. I think it's that simple.
It's $200K. Not that one.
I mean, here's the thing, though. I don't want to be insensitive, right, to people's financial position, right? I think I don't want to necessarily say fund. I think it's a parent's duty to support their child's education. With that being said, I love college. I love higher education through college. I think it's a great idea. However, there are other options. There is trade school, right, where a student can go if they're a hands-on learner, right, a kinesthetic learner. It may be even more affordable than paying, $30,000 to something thousand every year in college, where a child can get a hands-on experience learning a specific trade that they might even find more enjoyable. So I think more of it is supporting the learning journey. A parent has that obligation to say, yes, I want you to keep learning. I want you to keep growing. I want you to keep developing. Now, if they have the funds, even if your child does not want to do what you wanted them to do, I think if you have the funds to make that investment, you should more make an investment in their education, not necessarily in the, going back to like the title, right? You're making more an investment in their education. Now, when they graduate with their bachelor's, they want to go back for a master's, a PhD, I think it's fair to say, all right, you're in a place where you should be able to fund your own education. But I do think it's fair to say that, you know, parents should provide that support to their child, especially if their children, their child, that's not English, especially if it is within their means to do so. More importantly, support their education and their growth.
Okay. So for the remaining panelists, there was another question that said, do you think a parent should have the right to deny or basically choose not to pay for their child's education?
Do they have the right?
Brittany, do they have the right to choose not to pay? Or is it okay for them to do that?
Of course. Yes, I think they do have the right to say that. I think also touching on the last question, if they choose to pay for your education, it is a gift. It is their duty, however, to educate you on the best ways to pay for college. And especially, like I know even me, when I was going through the process, I was always told to go and get student loans, and that's not the best way necessarily. Like you should be trying to pay it off, work and pay it off as you're going along, and you should be trying to find scholarships and, you know, the best way to stay debt free, especially if you don't even know what you're going to college for.
Okay, what about you, Dooney?
I definitely think it's a gift for a parent to pay for college, but I do believe that it's the parent's duty to make sure that the child is given the maximum space to get to that place, right? So if you've known since the age of 6 that your child has loved robotics, has loved anything about engineering, make sure that your child has access to all of the things that they need to get to, so that when they get to college, or when they get to the point of applying to college, that they know, okay, I know I can go to MIT and get this degree, and I can get funding from this because you connected me to XYZ person. I've known in my school that we've had the robotics club. I've been connected to XYZ person. I've done internships. I know this, I know that. Like, it's the parent's duty to make sure that they're lining up their child's path, right? In what the child wants and what the child is interested in. And even if the child doesn't know what they want, like giving their child options. Like I think if you've made the choice to become a parent, you have a duty to your child to give them the best that you can possibly give. And that's not necessarily giving them all the things financially, but giving them all of the options, right?
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah.
What do you think, Saint?
Yeah, I think, like, do I disagree? I agree with the fact that it is a gift. And if we're thinking from K through 12, it's a duty. I think past that, it's it's a gift because a lot of people they're not financially able to, right? So when you say it's a duty, then that means the ones who can't do it, then it's a failure on their end. And not necessarily so, right? I think I also even think it's an honor. For example, for me, when I talk to my group of friends, I feel like I want my kids to not have to worry about the things that I worried about. I want them to go to college and sit amongst the best and not worry about certain things. I want them to know that their parents are connected, that like just like Karen has her mom knows a CEO who she can talk to. I want my kids to feel that sense. And I've been next to some people, you just know they were raised in privilege. Like they're not stressed, they're not worried. So I think it's an honor for me to put my kids in such a position, whether it is being able to pay for their college years so that they don't have to worry about loans, so that they're starting at the same level as Karen and Becky and all these other people. I want, so yeah, on that end, I feel like it's an honor and I love to think of that. But it's just because I want to relieve some of the stress and to put them at a level playing field. Not because I felt like I would be a failing parent if I don't pay for their college, when they're in a country where there are merit-based scholarships and other things. So
Yeah.
Okay. So there's another question for you guys. Do you guys think that parents put more pressure on their daughters versus their sons when it comes to choosing a career path?
It's a yes. Sorry, it's yes. It's a yes. Ivans already knows it. It's a yes. It's a yes.
I'm not up. Look, I'm out, Matt. It's just I'm a solo.
I feel like there's so much pressure on us, as well as more pressure on us to box us in to this specific field, right? A man, and don't get me wrong. I don't want this to sound wrong, but I love men. All the guys, black men, y'all are awesome. Y'all are powerful. I affirm you guys. However, I feel like they're not held up to the same standard. And I don't think that's a justice toward them either. I feel that there's not as much attention given to them. And that's very sad, where there's so much attention given to us where it's almost like I think more of the dictating of what we should do and who we should be in society is so much stronger. Once again, I mentioned, me telling people, I want to travel the world. I wanted this, I wanted that. And the first answer I get is not, oh, wow, that's dope, that's awesome. It's, do you plan on getting married? Will your husband be okay with that? And so I feel like we're just boxed in, where, we have to be also in nurturing positions, right? Being a nurse is more nurturing. Eyodzi from Haitian kon take care e negyo. That's what I've been told. I'm not a nurse though. Ness. That's what I can say. Ness negyo. And granted, like, I'm a businesswoman, but I can help you care for your money. I can help you give that tender loving care to your empire, okay, to your career and all of that. And I can still take care of it. You know what I mean? While a nurse can do, I can provide that care as well as a woman. But we get boxed into these, you should be a teacher, you should be a nurse. And they're not bad careers, but if it's not what I want to be, what if I want to be an engineer? What if I want to be a CEO? What if I want to be in creative? What if I want to be in brand? What if I want to work in finance? What if I want to be in the courtroom and, you know what I mean, and debate on topics that I'm passionate about? There's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like there's so much pressure to box us into these roles and also hold us up to this very high standard, which sometimes I feel is not even reasonable. And then also toss in that you're expected to be a wife and you're expected to be a mother and you're expected to be a this and you're expected to be a that, while they continue to let their sons, who, let's say they didn't want to do anything, okay, let's say, they went to college, came home, and they decided not to be to get a job. Then they become mama's boy. And there's nothing wrong with loving your mother, but then again, you're still failing your son because you held your daughter to this high standard of becoming a nurse and being financially stable, but you're not holding your son up to the same standard. Now, I'm an only child. I don't have brothers, okay? So feel free to debate me on that. So I come from the point of Haitian society, so feel free to debate me on that.
I'll just save my commentary for the end after all the ladies speak.
I somewhat agree with.
Yeah, go ahead.
Guys are definitely, regardless of culture or origin, are given much more freedom to like think and process and just sit with any ideas that they have, where women are expected to like, all right, so you're going to go from point A to point B to point C, where guys are like, so where do you want this to go? It's not even about how does that make you feel? Like, where does your brain tell you that this is like they're just given these liberties to just think through problems, where women are just like, oh no, you can't do that. You have to do this, and you have to go there, you have to sit there, and you have to be quiet, fold your hands, don't spread your legs too wide, because no one needs to see that. Like, so you have all of these other layers. So it's like, okay, be smart, but also be modest, but also do this, and also be a mother, and also like take care of your parents, and also like all of these pressures are compounded upon being like a woman in society, where boys are given the liberty to just like be free and roam and process, and we see this starting in kindergarten, like where you have the little playing house and the boys playing with the Legos, building and being imaginative, and the little girls are just staying in the corner, yes, I'm going to be a great mommy, and the boys are just like, look at this massive tower I just built, oh my gosh, and everybody's like, wow, look at that tower, it's so amazing, good job, and like the little girl's just in her corner like, I got this doll, yay. Okay.
So can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I have a different perspective. So I'm an only girl with three brothers originally, and then two other ones just tagged along, and I love them, so I have like 5 brothers. But and I grew up in Haiti. I went to an all-girls school, so there was never this like, oh, the guys are building this big thing, and what are we doing? My entire life, for the most part, I've been surrounded by all girls. So in school, like the leaders that I see are women, because it's the nuns. They're very strict. These are the female men that I knew were just as scared of them. And so all my friends, like since we were 6 years old, we're talking about, oh, I want to be an engineer. And like, I don't know, I've always been surrounded by women who think without limits. And their parents have been very big on that. And then when I moved here, I grew up with my mom. Like my father passed, and my mom was the leader. So she sees herself as the man and the woman. So she sees that in me too. So there's never been boundaries to what love. I think she actually thinks of me as a man, like low-key. But like And I also want to say, I think some of the pressure as far as like, we have to succeed, whereas the guys end up like, oh, I might want to play football or not, or just keep eating my mom food. I think some of that pressure we put on ourselves because we have this, like, I need to make it, right? Because my mom never, it's not that she put more pressure on me than my brothers, but I put more pressure on myself. And then I'm like, what are y'all doing? You know? So I think that's why even in college, you'll see a lot more Black females than Black males. Because with the Black women, at least from what I see, we are very determined to succeed, and you see we stick it through more often than the guys. And then you realize if you were to drop out as well, your mom will take you. It's just like, since you haven't done it, you think they're only doing the shitty to do to the boys. It's just because you haven't done it. Since the boys did it, they get to experience it. Your parents will really like end up taking whatever you give them. It's just we don't give it to them. Like women, we keep pushing, and they don't get to shitty to do your failure.
Yeah. Oh, something you said that I want to talk about. You said like we put this internal, like we, even if we're not getting that pressure from our immediate like we're not getting that immediate external pressure, we're placing that pressure on ourselves to like succeed and do more and do that. But like we're seeing that it's not like we didn't make it up, right? Like we're seeing this being asked of us from somewhere. So like even if we're in a household that's like, you can do anything, you're great. And I definitely grew up in that kind of household. My parents have been like very huge proponents of go explore. Like I've lived in New York for the bulk of my life. I went to college in California. And they're like, yes, go explore, enjoy. Like travel, see the world. Like they've allowed those experiences. I've been very grateful for that. But there's still that internalized pressure to succeed, to do great things, and to just be an awesome person. And while I'm not getting that from my immediate family, it's still coming from like society. It's still coming from like our parental care groups. It's still coming from somewhere, whether or not our immediate, like, because our feelings aren't just validated by the immediate connections that we have. It's also validated by what we think society thinks of us.
Very good point.
Okay.
I go back to.
We have another question.
I think it's self-imposed because we're trying to get that freedom. We're trying to get that because I think women actually, and I've been reading this, that there's this thing that tells you, a society that says you don't have to try as hard, just marry rich. Just, I actually think it's the opposite that we get from society that says, do just enough and just make sure because they expect you to marry higher, like just and maybe that's just what I see, and that a lot of the conversation, even in shows that I watch, that women actually like are not pushed. So they're like, it's like you're getting this, do just enough. Men are like, you better go because you have to be a fighter. Somebody's expecting you to do this. No, but where I think it's split, I think some black women said, I want to be independent, and I don't want to be reliant on a man. Whether the black men want me or not, I want to be able to provide for myself. So then we go hard to become our own providers.
I think it's a push-pull. We're held up to a very, very high standard, and then we get there, and then it's like, no, but you need to submit, like to be humble. That's the term I get. I'll say for myself, my parents, I'm the only kid, so I was like the boy and the girl. Okay, so it's like 10 times the pressure. And while I hated it, I'm grateful for it. My parents, they did suggest what they thought I should have been in college, and I did the complete opposite. And it came out a little rebellious. My ticket to Korea was purchased the day before, and I was like, I'll see you next year. They kind of saw it coming. They didn't believe it, and it happened. And it wasn't until I was flying over Japan, I was like, wow, guys, this is real. When I moved out to the DMV, it was the same thing. I interviewed for a job, and I was like, hey, parents, I think I'm going to be out in 2 weeks. And they're like, you need to think this through. It's not a good idea. You're going to be living on your own. You're going to this. And then I got the job, and I was like, bye, everyone. I'll be out in 2 weeks. But at the end of the day, they still supported it. But what I found is, even when I think I was maybe 27, when my father finally came to me and said, I acknowledge that even when I knew what you were doing, you knew what you were doing. And he shook my hand, like adult to adult. However, what I notice is, even with my success, I still get the push of, make sure you're humble yourself. Don't talk about it too much. I published a book, and I can't even lie to you, I haven't processed the fact that I'm a published author, self-publisher, owner of a publishing company, right? Because I keep getting well, humble yourself. Don't talk too much about it. Don't, because it seems like I'm still supposed to be limited, right? While I'm still expected to do so much. So it's a lot of yes, society is pushing us to do a lot, but still trying to reel us into this. Humble yourself, be submissive. You're the mother, you're the matriarch. Is that what they call it? The wife. You should be submissive. You should be quiet. And I'm an outspoken person. I say what I'm thinking, and I mean what I say. But then that's another thing. Humble yourself, but still, work hard and push to do this and push to do that. I don't think it's fair.
I do. I definitely want to say and affirm that I think the most marginalized group is the Black woman. It's just like it's just a fact. And I also would like to say that is like the entire world maybe was like built on top, like from the backs of the Black, because it's like it's from them that we come from, right? I have different varying views. What I do want to say, there is a difference between the old generation and the current generation. I feel like more open and like accepting for a woman to be what a woman wants to be, you know. And I'm a huge proponent. I love a woman who's like just has alpha like personality, who can take control and is able to you know have her own thing and regulate her own stuff. But at the same time, the idea of submission is just more so she can very much lead, but she's opting you to take that control. But just don't get it twisted. You know, Michelle Obama could take control whenever she wants to. Like when it comes to the Caribbean household, there's so many different dynamics, right? I think we have this term in the Haitian household is "DroppedMic," right? Like which is like the pillar of the house, and you cannot have a house without that "DroppedMic." It's like this the very foundation of what you are, everything that you love, everything that you want. So I always look at it as like if the man is supposed to be leading and protecting the house, right? I look at the woman as literally the ribs protecting the most vital things to that man. Like it's like if you want to even take it to the Bible, it's like out of the ground the man was made, or he took the dirt, blew on it, and then made the man. But then out of the rib he made the woman. The rib is the one that protects the heart, the organs, the lungs, there's so many different like important things. So there's that dynamic where it's like a woman's role is like is very, very, very important if they choose to take that. But then there's another like fear. It's like sometimes believe that a woman is not capable to do and protect themselves, right? I don't know where the society got the standard, but just best believe my daughter's going to be locked and loaded and knows how to fight. That's just my thought process on the matter. But because of that, there's certain times where they would ask them to they'll over like care and say you can't go explore, go out to these locations because out of fear that they'll be in a position where they can't protect themselves, which I don't necessarily agree with. And I also think when it comes to like men, like in my household, like we had to treat like my little sister like the queen, like she's the princess. She's the only daughter, like she's the only girl. And then my mom's the head queen. So it's like we have that dynamic, but there's different dynamics like in different households. But I think the older generation definitely has a more dated view, but I think this new generation now is allowing a woman to choose what they want to do. And I think that's the right call. Like, I think that's the right thing that we need to be doing. We can't just dictate, like I wouldn't want someone to dictate as a black man, this is what you're supposed to look like and what you're supposed to do. And that's how you're supposed to act. And I don't think it's fair to do the same thing for women.
Thanks, Ivans. And someone else asked a question on YouTube. They said, do y'all believe that the lack of pressure on men is causing a shortage of competent men and an increase of overly qualified women? I want to hear from Erica, Brittany, and then I'll go to everyone else.
Wow, it's a tough one.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I do believe there is a lack of accountability for our black and brown boys. And that is, and when we do look, I mean, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but there is a higher percentage of black women who have a higher education, right? Whether it be college or postgraduate. And I think once we really start to hold our black and brown boys accountable for their education, their acts, I think we could see a shift in statistics in regards to education.
Okay. What do you think about that, Brittany?
I think it's a layered question, and I think it depends on what context you're speaking of it in as well. In terms of education, Speaking from just my experience, I only have a little brother. He's 13, and I can say that my mother is instilling in him, as she did me, the importance of education, if not to be a nurse, doctor, lawyer, then at minimum as a backup for whatever else it is you do. And in terms of pressure, like I can say perhaps women have more pressure on them because they internalize not only the battles that they have within them, their doubts that they have, but also the ones that are enforced by their parents and society. And that is going to be different for both men and women. So, yeah, I think it just depends on context. If we're talking about babying and, you know, not enforcing them to clean up after themselves and stuff like that, I feel like that's a different conversation.
So the only point that I was going to make on this is like, I think we see a varying difference because a lot of there's guys with fathers, like there's some whose father was just not there, and because of that lack of presence, it causes you to lean and look for something else in order to guide. I'm a strong believer that a woman can help raise a man, but can't really teach a man how to be a man because they're not a man. You know, it's like you need that man's presence in order to say, okay, when you feel certain ways, this is how you deal with it. When you're trying to like look or go a certain direction in life, this is how you deal with it. You need that guide, and a lot of times men don't have. Who's teaching them how to be men? It's like what they see on Twitter University, Facebook University, YouTube University. From my their homie Day Day and them. Like they're getting their basis of how to be a man from all these different resources, and we're kind of piecing and patching what that looks like, and that could create so much inner turmoil. And even society, like there's a lot of pressure on women, but sometimes I feel there's a lot of pressure on men as well, because they're let's, for example, if a man cannot provide for their family, they're not regarded in the same standard in society, right? If you can't provide for me, then what is your value? That is a lot of pressure. And I do think we should be held accountable, but I don't think those men were taught how to kind of process that responsibility. It was just boom, like I didn't act. I didn't know what it meant. I have a child, and now I have to take care of the child, and I have to make a decision. And I think the guys who have made the decision, I'm gonna figure it out, made the best decisions. But those guys who like ran away, I would argue that it is from them not really understanding what those pressures themselves look like. And even with their life and their success, it really just depends on like who was the guide for them. Like I think we do need continually to have that higher standard. That comes from, like, a lot of times it comes from like a woman that they really want, or like it comes from like a position or internal passion that they really want, and the guy will step up to it. Like a man really wants to have the opportunity to prove himself sometimes, but basically what I'm just trying to get at is like they definitely do need a guide. We continually need to have our standards super high for them, but then also we need to like we need to be mindful that there's certain times they just don't know, and because they're out of fear, they just it's that fight or flight mechanism. So they oftentimes flying,
I want to just add to
what you're saying.
Sorry,
I just wanted to add, like, when I talk about like this whole accountability aspect in regards to education, I'm speaking from personal experience as well as an educator, right? I saw firsthand how specifically boys would get away with the things like, oh, this whole concept, oh, boys will be boys, just let them act up, or them not being held accountable for the work that they were doing in class, right? Or they would just let them continue to pass on with them not even meeting those academic standards. And yes, I do agree that the foundation does start at home, and there may be lack of resources that are home as well. But it bothers me so much because there's so much injustice in regards to education and communities that is just so difficult for our young boys, our young girls too, to just be supported in the way that they really need to be supported, right? And there's just so many facets that connect to it in relation to how they can't be as successful as they should be. I don't know if that makes sense.
I agree with both Ivan and Erica. I think there's another layer to it as well. Men should be held accountable, right? And I found, even in my personal experience, I realized that there are, especially Black men, if they can find a way to not be held accountable or to crawl under some kind of shelter, right, to be absolved of accountability, they will do it. But I've also realized that a lot of men don't understand the value of accountability, right? And so what happens is, for example, you're sleeping with a girl and then a baby happens. Okay, and I have to take care of it. That's a huge jump. I don't know the value of it. I don't know the importance of, bringing up this new generation. There's a lot to accountability. And remember, look at the events of this week. Black men endure a significant trauma. And I fully agree with Ivan's that we are the most marginalized population as Black women. But I think the way our brains are trained, our chemical makeup psychologically, I feel like the way we process, for example, they say, woman, we can multitask, versus a man, a lot of them just need to do one thing at a time. Could be also telling of how we might deal with challenges, right? Where school might be hard, but, where we might be a wife, we might be a mother, or we might feel pressures by society and it's very hard, but we may have, because of our chemical makeup, we might be in a better position to navigate that. And because we have action, we are in a position to navigate that. Versus men, Black men, who are undergoing all this trauma and this pressure, right? To be a man and to, be a man, be what do they call it? A bystanding citizen, but still being a threat to society, right? A lot of that trauma, they don't always have that outlet to process it. And so all they know is probably getting coddled, but not necessarily understanding how to process their feelings, understanding how to work through a challenge. So it might just be, it's either I can do it or I can't, right? That's where some women who might be in a relationship with a man and they're ready for marriage, but the man is like, I can't do it. Or they might propose, or they're not necessarily ready to get married, even though they're proposing. Because once again, they're not being taught that value of accountability. They're not being taught to manage all of those challenges, the trauma, the insecurities, the doubt that they may be feeling that will hold them back from stepping forward and saying, hey, if I want to be an engineer, I'm going to go and continue to be an engineer. No, I didn't have, the same resources as, a Caucasian counterpart, but I still can continue doing it. No, maybe I lost my job, but there's still an opportunity for me to get another one, because now in an environment that teaches them the value of still taking accountability. It teaches the value of still remaining perseverant, and it also gives them the specific steps to, remain grounded while achieving their academic goals, their professional goals, and their personal goals.
Julia,
can we say that?
I definitely hear what you're saying, but I also want to challenge you. Like, are we also being taught how to be accountable? Especially Black women, we out here holding everything down, right? We're being raised we're being raised in a Haitian household, right? We're taught to do all these certain things, whereas men are also being held or raised in that household as well. And if we're not, like, I just don't feel like women are also taught how to be accountable, but we know how to do it. Like, it's kind of an excuse.
And I think that goes to our chemical makeup. I think it goes into our chemical makeup where for us, we might be programmed to just figure it out, right? And it could just come from society. I also feel like the mother, like our mothers, maybe putting us in the kitchen, teaching us how to cook. I think those are also ways of teaching us to be accountable, right? Or also, you know, even the saying of, my grandmother used to tell me this, if you can't cook, you're not gonna get a man. I've dated, all the people I've dated in my life knew how to cook. Praise God. Okay. So I proved her wrong. However, it was still her way of teaching me the value of accountability, right? Learn how to fend for yourself so that you can take care of your family, and then teaching me the steps. Now, the truth behind that statement, that's up for debate. But once again, between our chemical makeup, our ability to maybe process things differently, process the challenges, process the pain, process the trauma, process the pressure, and still have the determination to keep moving, right? Versus the man where they're more coddled. You know, some of them see their fathers being served the sospa in one bowl, the jus in another plate, and so on and so forth. That's teaching them accountability. That's not teaching them the value of accountability. So I would say that, yes, we're taught how to be accountable. Maybe it's not the approach, right? But also, I think we're built to handle all that pressure differently than men are built to handle it.
I want something out there. So can we say maybe that it's not necessarily a lack of pressure, but men do not have access to the same resources that women have, whether it be a man in the household or open communication in the household, any of these things. Because I think accountability is related to maturity, and pressure is directly aligned to value and purpose. So maybe it's a question of...
I'll put that quote on Twitter. Y'all better quote her, because we're going to copyright it and sue you if you don't quote her.
I mean, I'm going to say this real quick. I do think to that point, the conversations women have, the content that women consume, like the people that they're like around, I feel like, you know, a woman knows how to manage their emotions a lot better than a man does. Because what we do is we're just like a time bomb. I feel like it's like because now, like how we kind of process like the emotions, rather than openly talking about it, we just bottle it in. But like in terms of like the accountability aspect, is like, I think like young boys is like it could be layered in this sense. When they're in the classroom, like they'll lash out, they'll act up, like they're distracting us from learning, and then they're trying to prove something. I would say that act stems from like those lacks of resources, lack of being able to process their emotions. But I do want to stress that we should still keep them accountable by laying down the hammer. Okay, they're acting up and they're not going to listen to like authority. Okay, let's bring like that figure that's lacking there. How do we get those programs that's there? What does that look like? That form of accountability, I think is necessary. I just know that like I could only speak from, I don't know the statistics, but I've seen like in terms of like behaviors, women are more inclined to just take in the content and like listen and be calm. And then guys will be unruly. I don't know why, but it's just like that behavior that I've seen.
And I also
want to add. Sorry. No. Some of the things that you were saying are learned behaviors, right? So some of the things that you were saying are learned behaviors. If I see that if I throw a tantrum, I don't have to do the work, I'm going to throw a tantrum every day. So I don't have to do the work. I'm not going to have to learn. I'm not going to have to sit in this classroom. I don't have to listen to you talk. That is a learned behavior. And as the child grows up, they're going to demonstrate that learned behavior in different ways, right? So if I learn that this behavior causes X, as I'm 18, I can't do the same behavior I was doing at 6. I've matured that behavior. So that behavior looks a lot, especially for a Black boy, that looks more like violence, that looks more aggression and things like that, and being bottled up or not saying anything when you need support. Those are all learned behaviors that are manifesting at a later stage, right? So when girls are able to say, oh, I need help with this, oh, I need help with that, they learn that, oh, if I cry, daddy's going to come and pick me up, right? So if I ask for help, something's going to happen. But we don't allow our boys to do that same thing. If they cry, we're like, oh, toughen up, be a man, be strong. And when they act with aggression, they're taught, okay, so you will get a response when you have the aggression. When you're breaking things, somebody will touch you, somebody will hug you, somebody will like take you aside and spend some time with you if those are the behaviors that you're exhibiting. So we're teaching our young children these things, and they're growing up not fully understanding how to fully navigate and process their emotions. And like that's a parent's job to teach those behaviors, like to teach away some of those behaviors as the kid is growing up. And not just society, part of like the community's job, right? Because like you're not just getting feedback from your parents, you're getting feedback from your church members, you're getting feedback from your teachers. So like I work a lot in special education, right? So I see a lot more Black kids getting diagnosed with oppositional defiance disorder, and whereas their white counterparts, they have ADHD that manifest in behaviors. Even if they're acting out in the same exact way, they're being diagnosed in completely different ways that have completely different long-term impacts. Because like ADHD, there are therapies that you can use to address that. There's medication for that. Oppositional defiant, there's also medication, but those medications are a lot stronger and sometimes have a lot more severe impacts on them. And so like if we're going back to like the learned behavior aspect, if we're engaging in conversation and really taking the time to connect with children and communicate like appropriate behaviors, in the long term, it's less likely that they will continue to exhibit those behaviors. And for some of our adults, they still have those learned behaviors that they're acting out. And it's okay to like be upset. It's okay to have aggression, but learning how to talk about it is okay too, right? Finding somebody to discuss it with is what you need. And like I love the fact that I'm seeing more and more in the Black community and the Black men community that they're being given the space to be more open and more vocal about their needs, about their mental health, about what's going on with them. But I'm a firm believer that like you have to be able to give that space. You have to be able to open up that dialogue so that these behaviors, so that these learned experiences don't have to continue to manifest in terrible ways.
I just wanted to add to that. We have to also teach people we need to teach kids to redirect their energy, right? A kid that lashes out, your first word should not be your bad, right? Something I use with my children's choir kids is the first thing I told them is, listen, you are a leader. I understand you're frustrated. That's where you validate how they feel. My boys, I understand you're frustrated. But you see, when you feel strongly about something, if one of your friends is being bullied, I want you to take that same energy and defend that person. Because honestly, our president, he says whatever he wants, how he wants to say it, in the way he wants to say it. He lashes out and people glorify him for it. But our Black boys, we start to belittle them because of it. And I get it is learned behavior, but it can just be a sense of passion that they have. And when we really teach them to take that passion and use it for a positive thing, right? Then you're putting them in a better direction. You're helping them exhibit these behaviors to better channel their energy. I heard someone who was like, listen, they got drug dealers. What if you taught them to start a business, right? Instead of something illegal, find a way to use those skills, right, that you're doing illegally, and spin it in a positive way. And that way you're not bashing them all the time, and they don't feel now that maybe because they have a voice, they want to have a voice, or maybe because, you know, they're passionate about something, or they feel wronged, or whatever the case may be. Because sometimes even that lashing out, it's a cry for help. It's a cry for attention that maybe they don't get from home. Maybe they don't get in the classroom. And when you teach them and validate them and say, I understand how you feel, I understand where you're coming from, you have the right to be upset, but help them to know that those behaviors in a positive light, I think that's when you're putting them in a better direction.
All right. Thank you, Juliet, and thank you, guys. Would love to continue this debate, but like we always say, all good things must come to an end. I want to thank our panelists for joining us tonight. I want to thank the audience and our viewers for tuning in. I want to thank our team, our tech guys, the ladies that work behind the scenes putting this panel together. Continue to share this video with your friends and family members. We hope you'll tune in back again on Friday. Again, this was Ted. You are watching DroppedMic. Have a good night.